Porky's Corner is proud to be sponsored by Spartan Site Solutions. They are specialists in civil engineering and demolition contracts for the construction industry. Interested parties should visit their website or contact Porky's Corner for a referral at porkycorner@mail.com.
Hello all you hardcores out there, how are you doing? It's Russ here from Porky's Corner. The biggest gob in sport. We say the things on here that other YouTube channels can only dream about because they've got balls at tiny little processed peas. Jeff Morrell peas from Oulton Bagnall. 2 seconds, where's my comfort ball? Still better now. Anybody have a comfort ball when they were a kid or a teddy? They have. I always have something like, you know, that I can, I don't know, different horses for different courses, isn't it? Right. Something different. Somebody emailed me and they said, "Oh, Porky, you never read all comments out because I'll be here all night." And some of them are like that long. And I don't know how to work it to do it on there and then just read them out. I suppose I could do it on my phone, couldn't I? You're like that, aren't you? So I've wrote a couple out. They're all on. They're all out there on last videos, last few days, and that. And there's a few on here that they want a bit of kudos because they're good questions. So I want to give them a bit of a big up. There's some questions that are not so good, but what can you do? There's some that are not even about boxing, but I don't want to hear about that you split up with your missus. Everybody's got relationship problems, haven't they? Everybody, it's tough out there, isn't it? I don't want to hear that you're not speaking to your missus. I'm not interested in that. Don't be emailing me about your love lives. All right, I'm not a social worker. Okay, my advice to it is this. Any problems, walk and clear your head for a few weeks. That's what you got to do. Clear your head. And then think about it. Don't say anything hasty if you're I don't know, if you've cheesed off or out. So that's all I'm going to say, but please don't send me any more emails in regarding your love lives. All right, because I get jealous. Right, Mad Marcus. He wants to know. I'm not going to read out them little numbers that the YouTubers have decided to put aside of everybody's name now. I think they do that because some people have same names. You know, if you put like John Smith, it might say John Smith 740 and then a 2. Or it might say John Smith 2817. That's why they do it, so they don't get mixed up. Because there's more than one John Smith in the world, isn't there, really? I mean, anybody who's a Smith, and when your son's born, why call him John? Because everybody's called that, aren't they? Get a grip, you cranks. Right. Mad Marcus wants to know, who let the gad in? Who let the gad in? It's like that song, isn't it? Who let the dogs out? Woof, 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 woof. Who let the gad in? Woof, 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 woof. No, it isn't that. It's who let the gad in? Lick, 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 lick. Who let the gad in? Slurp, 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 slurp. I don't know. I think Gareth's been involved in combat sports, boxing and all that for, I think, about 30 years, maybe more. He's obviously very well educated. He loves combat sports. And if you look at his wording in his column that he does, it comes out with really big, long words. You know, longer words that we use in North. You know, very well educated man. And he loves the sport. But my argument is this. Gareth A Davies, where he crosses the line with me, he should be neutral. He's not neutral, is he? He goes into bat for these people. Look, all cards on table right now. Forget banter. Forget banter. Let's just talk sense. Let me just not be Porky for 1 minute. Let me just be Russ, a boxing fan. Right. Looking at Gareth A Davies. He's an educated man. He's obviously not behind the door. He's a bit of a self-promoter. You've seen how he dresses and all that. Well, Forget all that. He's obviously good at his job. He wouldn't have held the job down at the Daily Telegraph, and he's a big noise there and has been years. He wouldn't have been able to hold the job down there for years. I remember having a conversation over a few whiskies with Dennis one night about him. Oh, they're going to have to rein it in about Gareth. He's all right, you know. I said, look, Dennis, whenever we've got grown men, same age as him, going into bat for things I don't agree with, I'm going to go against the grain, aren't I? Gareth A Davies, right, should be neutral. He's not neutral, and none of them are, because what happens is, once you start getting your press credentials, what boxing people do, and I've seen Dennis disarm more journalists than you can imagine. I know, because I've been on front pages. I was on front pages when I got my not guilty at Sheffield Crown. Dennis says, don't thee worry about that. I'll have all press waiting for thee on the second day of the trial when they gets they're not guilty. I said, oh, yeah, we'll see. He didn't let me down, did he? I ended up on front page like that outside courts, wasn't I? So he didn't let me down. So journalists do favours for people in boxing. It's been going on for years. Gareth A Davies, if you go back to when he first started, he tried to be a little bit like me, didn't he? Bunce tried it, didn't he? He got a 2-year ban off Mickey Duff. Bunce were paying out his own pocket to go to press conferences and weigh-ins and shows around Europe. That's a true story. The gad is now in their pockets, isn't it? We know, don't we? We've seen it. How did he get in? What do you mean by in, Mad Marcus? You mean like into boxing? Well, he's obviously print media, isn't it? But the YouTube things took over, hasn't it? Social media. So print media, a bit all that in it now. A bit like Colin Hart. It's all that. But the gad's everybody's friend, isn't it? Conor Benn's a nice guy. Look, Gareth, he's failed 2 drug tests. You remember your opinion on Jarrell Miller, don't you? Right? Now, Conor Benn's failed 2 dope tests more than 18 months ago, and he hasn't given an explanation how that got in his system. That's fact. So forget all this me screaming and ranting on it. Let's talk sense. You're going into bat for him constantly. And you shouldn't really. You shouldn't. He should take his punishment, right? Why you have to do that, I don't know. And it's the same with Tyson Fury. You feel the need to go into bat for him. And John Fury, when he's carrying off like that, Tommy will do it like a dog and he's, come down here, KSI, I'm going to BUMU. Things like, oh, that's just John, that's just John. Because you're frightened to give an opinion in case you get pulled in a toilet, and it goes on in boxing. Sometimes you'll get pulled into a lavatory by someone and they'll just give you the scutch. An open-handed scutch. A boxer won't punch you, just give you one of them. Right? And Gareth A Davies is probably frightened of that. He's frightened to go into bat for what's right. So what he does, he bigs these people up. He gives them loads of PR, never shuts up about them. If Frank Warren turns around like he did yesterday and say Ngannou can knock Tyson Fury out, or sorry, Ngannou nearly knocked Tyson Fury out and he can knock Joshua out, Gareth A Davies will then push the narrative because Frank started it. And do you think Frank doesn't know that? Yeah, Frank Warren will be howling about that, won't you, Bricktop? So that's how he got in, and that's the problem I have with Gareth A Davies. He's not a media guy anymore. He's not a media hack. He's a PR guy for certain people. Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Eddie Hills, Bricktop, all them guys, Conor Benn, John Fury. What do them people do in the last 12 months? Who does the most views in boxing? Joshua, Tyson and John, and then the promoters, Eddie and Frank, and then Crusher Ben. Them people, the gad goes into bat for, and he needs them people to stay relevant. So he's not going to rock the boat. But what I don't see the gad going into bat for Liam Cameron, who got a 4-year ban, and he's back on the hard road in his second fight next month for these next door, Izzy and Ash. I don't see the gad going into bat for Liam on the road back. And Liam only failed for 1 cocaine test. Fury failed a cocaine, a nandrolone cocaine, and a refusal. Right, 3 tests. And look how he's gone into bat for him. Why is Gareth A Davies not doing an article about Liam Cameron's comeback? Why is he discarded? Because Liam Cameron doesn't do views, does he? He doesn't do. Liam Cameron does not do views. So he's no good to the Gad, is he? He's no good whatsoever. So that's my argument with the Gad, Gareth A Davies. Yeah, that's my argument with him. Other than that, all the rest of it, well, that's just him, innit, really. If he wants to leer over women showing the tattoos on social media, that's the woman's fault. He's a man who's going to look in it. Or if he wants to tell women boxers they've got powerful legs, like he told that Ellie Brook, she might have. They looked pretty muscular. They should be. She's a boxer, isn't she? They're supposed to be, aren't they? Whether he wants to put his head between them thighs of hers, I don't know. I don't know what goes on in his head. We don't know. But as we're getting back to his professional job, I think his column's very, very well worded and things like that. But there's a lot of rimming going on, isn't there? He's going into bat for certain people and doing favours behind the scenes, and it's wrong. It's absolutely, absolutely wrong. Nothing was said by the Gad when Crusher Ben weren't in the clean testing programme, was it? The Gad's not asked Conor Ben, Conor, it were in your system. How did it get there? Why can't Gareth A Davies, Steve Bunce, Colin Hart, all these sort of guys, Jeff Powell, and he's one at best out there, Jeff Powell. He's not in anybody's pocket. And he has asked that question, Jeff Powell, but he's not asked it directly to Ben. And they're not asking these questions as questions at press conferences because they get the press pass took off them. All right. That's all. That's my only issue with these guys. They're not asking proper questions. They're just going to go around with access and just put their head in the sand because they're frightened. I understand that these people have got bills to pay. We've all got bills to pay. I have bills to pay. I have bills to pay just like everybody else. But sometimes you have to figure a way around it, don't you? They're not all like me. I'm an all or nothing person. I can take it all. I can be happy in here, or I can be happy at home, or I can be happy in a prison cell. You know, if it's just me and I've got a radio, bit of a pot noodle, a shake, and paper and pen, I'm happy in my own company, but not everybody's like that. They need money, don't they? A lot of people, and they need that fame fix. I think Gareth A Davies, don't you, Gareth? You need that little bit of a fix. You like to go to these shows and think you're a bit of a centre of attention. So that's who let him in. He let himself in. But boxing lets anybody in, doesn't it, really? We let anybody in. They let me in, didn't they? And I've not been a good kid. I've had a bad seed from being born. You know, it's only in the last few years that I think I've matured a little bit. But I've been a bad seed probably all my life. I've put years on my parents and they're still here. So, but hey ho, you know, I've got a lot of making up to do, haven't I, in that department. But Gareth A Davies, you're a licker. You know that, don't you? Start asking proper questions. Everybody at TalkSport thinks you're a dick, right? Your colleagues think you're a dick. So I couldn't work in that atmosphere, me. I couldn't. So change your ways. Start not being a PR person for these guys and start asking questions. When Bricktop were on that TalkSport show, live with Adam Cattrall doing that questioning, you sat there and you said zero all the way through. You tried to butt in 3 times, but 2 or 3 times. Adam Cattrall cut you off at first and went, hey, let me out the floor here, whatever. You never came out with anything. You never asked any proper questions, Gad. Because you don't want to upset these people because you're frightened of being took out of the circle. You're frightened of not being on the aeroplane to Saudi or being in the mix around these people. It bothers you. I don't know why, because you're not a fighter. You've still got your column. You've got your YouTube channel. Grow that. But stop being a licker. It's not manly. It's embarrassing, actually. So that's who let him in. So, but basically how he got in, he was doing interviews, one on IFL constantly and creeping around people and getting his name out there. There's no wrong with that. It's called networking, isn't it? Trying to get his son out there. And I don't know about the old Bono look that he's going for. Sunglasses in a side of building in the day and all that. That's not a good look, Gad. It's not cool. So I hope that answers your question. Mad Marcus, that's someone at videos if you want to reply to Marcus. And Mad Marcus, you've plenty to say there on comment section. Why are you not doing a Zoom? Hey, let's have a look at you. You know, with good questions like that, you could be a good addition to the channel. So have a think about doing a Zoom. All right. Andy Lloyd says, when Ali fought Foreman, he was 32 and classed as past it. He'd be a whippersnapper in this era. Whippersnapper, young whippersnapper, I heard that saying for ages. Yeah, Ali. Ali's won the title back at 32. Everybody said, well, past it, didn't they? But don't forget, he'd had that 3.5 year out at ring. No, he 3.5 year out at ring. God knows what he was doing, but he came back and he weren't a twitch fighter no more. If you remember, when Ali started, up to him having that break when he got banned because he didn't go to Vietnam, Ali was a twitch fighter, you know, like Usyk, David A, Errol Bomber Game, that twitch fighter where they have them muscle fibers that twitch and they're really quick and you can't nail them. Andre Dirrell, Matthew Barney, he's another one. He gave Frotch nightmares, didn't he, for the first 4 or 5 rounds in his British title fight, and then ran for his life. It was good grounding for Carl, that won it for Dirrell. So good matchmaking there from Mick Hennessy. But the point I want to make is Ali wasn't a twitch fighter when he came back, and he never had the same legs. He still had his legs, but he weren't the same fighter. So he developed a style where, well, I don't think he developed that style. I think he couldn't help it, but he had to develop a style where he had to take some and fire back. But it worked for him, didn't it? It worked for him, didn't it? And don't forget, when he came back, Ali, he came back in 70, did he? End of 70, wasn't it? He fought while 80, so he had another 10 years. But we had 2 careers of Ali, didn't we, really? We had 2 careers, didn't we? We had the 7-year career, didn't we? And then we had a 10-year career. So two Ali's, but Ali at 32 now would be, yes, you're right. You're right, Andy Lloyd. He'd be a whippersnapper, wouldn't he? I mean, it's Big Freeze. He's 8-0. Fraser Clark, it's Big Freeze. 8-0, Big Freeze. Or Big Freeze. And he's 33 in August. Oh, look at the difference. What were Ali when he was 32? He'd already been a 2-time undisputed champion at world. Big Freeze at the same age, he's 8-0. So he's got a lot of ground to make up, hasn't he, Big Freeze? It's Big Freeze. But yes, he would be a whippersnapper now. And good question. Gary MacArthur, he leaves questions regularly. He's been going to do a Zoom for years, hasn't you, Gary? Hey? Gary's no arsehole. He's one of them that likes to be behind keyboard, don't you, Gary? Gary likes to hide and say his opinion. So he's probably a laminate holder, but we'll give him a bit of coolness because it's a decent question. Gary MacArthur says, what about Colin Hart? What's the deal with him? He's a boxing man by name in the media. Surely he should be asking the questions about the state of boxing, Conor and that situation, etc., etc. He writes for national newspapers, not like these other media people. Just like I answered earlier, yeah, Colin Hart's not going to answer them questions. Colin Hart is some old guy with a bad wig, isn't he, basically? He's a dinosaur. He rears up every now and then for a free lunch, doesn't he, at a Bricktop, you know, lunch, media day or whatever at Fredericks in Islington or whatever they do. Colin Hart's had his day. He's a dinosaur. Not my cup of tea. He's not going to go up against the establishment. He gives Joshua a lot of stick, doesn't he, Anthony Joshua, because Colin Hart's not a matchroom man, is he? He's a Queensbury man. So it is what it is. But yeah, these guys should be asking questions. I think there's only Jeff Powell that's really made any noise out of a lot of them. Bunce, maybe a little bit. He's not going to go against Queensbury because that's the hand that feeds him. So it is what it is, isn't it? So I hope that answers your question, but it's very similar to the other one. Les Baxter. Oh, good old Les Baxter. How are you doing, Les? Les, me and you have had some ding-dongs, haven't we, over years? You know about your man who vacated? Mr. Padded CV, WBO champion Joe Calzaghe. Your man that vacated. Good question, this one, though, Les. Les says, Elenius, a week's notice. Walling, 3.5 weeks' notice. Yeah, I don't know if the boxing fans knew that, Les, but yeah, Elenius took it at a week's notice and then failed the drug test. probably because he were out of camp. And he thought he could get away with it. And the other guy, Walling, well, 3.5 weeks notice. So Joshua had been in camp, full camps for that. So if Anthony Joshua's going into a fight with a 10-week camp, he's raring to go, isn't he? If Elenius is going in there with a 1-week camp, he's not raring to go. The septics can say Robert Elenius had a couple of weeks previously already had a fight, so he should have been fit. But someone as a boxer has a fight, we know what happens, don't we? He pigs out straight after, doesn't he? I remember Dennis getting an offer for decent money to fight somebody on a Mick Hennessy show. And he rung Chris up and said, "Oh, what about getting Liam on this?" I think it was really, really, really good money. I think it was like 16, 17 grand. But Liam, after like 2 or 3 days, Liam had already put a couple of stone on. So Dennis was like, "We'll get it knocked off." But Liam were having none of it. Well, that's what you're up against, isn't it? But point I want to make is some fighters, they can't just take a fight, can they? After they've had another fight, because they need that blowout after camp, don't they? It's I don't know, they get set in a routine, don't they, fighters? Whereas they finish, they have a fight, and then they usually have a 2-month off and go again. That mentality has got to stop, hasn't it? You know, that Ricky Hatton mentality, where they need a blowout. Well, I'll just have a couple of day blowout and then get back on it. But some of them can't, can they? So, I don't know. But Elenius, that was embarrassing from him. And Otto Walling, that was embarrassing. And Eddie Hills and all them selling the Otto Walling fight. This is how I look at it, right? Otto Walling fought Tyson Fury 51 months earlier. Now, let me tell you this. 51 days in the sport of boxing to a boxer, if he don't look after himself, his career can be finished. If he goes and pigs out for 51 days, because you're going to put at least 51 pounds on, aren't you? He can pig out, put all that weight on, and then you never get it back. So 51 months, well, Walling either going to be a better fighter or worse. I'd say he peaked that day and Fury fought crap because he were just finding his feet then, wasn't he? So I say Walling were lucky. But all that squeaky bum talk, it was squeaky bum, squeakinators. That's a load of rubbish, that squeaky bum talk. Walling were never going to win that fight, were he? So there were gifts. So Les Baxter, yeah, Walling 24 days, 3.5 weeks, and Elenius, he took it on 8 days notice, or it's 7 days notice. It was something like that, wasn't it? By the time he got it, well, less, wasn't it? So, okay. Louis, Lewi. Louis, hello, Louis. I don't remember seeing any of your comments before. You've put hashtag game change. Was there slogan behind the DAZN launch saying how we get all the big fights as part of our subscription and no more pay-per-view? Yeah, we were told that by Eddie Hills, the 6-0 Iceman from Billericay, for by way of. That lasted all of about 2 weeks. I think it was a little bit longer than that. I think it might have been about 4 to 6 weeks. But it didn't last long, did it? The old it's subscription based and all that. The sun went back to pay-per-view, didn't they? Look, these promoters, they slip and slide and change their mind like they do their underpants daily. Well, I'm assuming they all change them daily. I know I do. I don't know about Eddie Hills, you know, but what can you do? It's pay-per-views where the money is. They're saying they can't make these big pay-per-view fights. Well, if a certain fighter came into my office or a promoter and I said, look, you're not on 5 million a fight now, you're on 2 million because it's going to be subscription based and not pay-per-view, and they throw a strop, see the door's there, get gone. No messing about whatsoever. You've got to show authority, but these promoters are pandering to these fighters because these fighters are just going to cross the street, aren't they? Or go elsewhere, so they're having to pay it. So a lot of these boxers and managers, they're backing promoters into a corner. So, but yeah, very good question that regarding subscriptions and pay-per-views. Louis, have to come and do a Zoom one day and grow a pair. But at least the pennies drop with you on it, mate. So, all right. None of yours asks, speaking of Dennis and Tommy, I'm assuming you're thinking of Big Ron and Super Tommy Frank, what's happened to Perry the Promise How? The brakes have surely come off. Well, Perry, didn't he retire and there were going to be some big promoter going to put his own shows on, strutting around Dennis's office? I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do wonders. All he did was suck on cucumbers. Well, he's on Ash and Izzy's show on February 9th in Sheffield. If you want to get tickets, get in touch with Perry the Promise How. Perry the Promise How, let me just say this to you. You remember our bet, don't you? Right? If you get out of boxing and you don't win an area belt, in the River Don you're going to go. Now, you think that's funny, don't you? Well, I know it won't be me going in Don. It'll be you. But if I lose my bet, I'll be straight in Don, kid. But will you? Nah, you won't, will you? You won't. So, but has Perry Howe got a Southern area belt in him? No. No, he hasn't. He's a white collar fighter. And is he a lorry driver for bin men? He drives a lorry, doesn't he, for bin men? You know, when you... He's a bin man lorry driver and a bin man fighter, in my opinion. Isn't that right, Perry? Pop, pop, bang. So, has he got in a Southern area, Central area belt in him? No, he hasn't. I'll tell you what belt he's got in him, though. One Big Ron give him. Big Ron bought a belt for him, didn't he? IBO trinket, the lowest one you can get. I think that's what belt Big Ron got for him. And he was strutting around Sheffield Town Centre in Maggie Mays with his belt. That's what I heard. And people were saying, we've never heard of that belt. But they were having the pictures took with him. So he's had his moment, hasn't he? But Perry, you can't box Easter eggs. That's the bottom line. That's why you're on Izzy's show. All right. So just telling it true, keeping it real. What do you want me to do? Say you pound for pound. You're a journeyman. That's it. So stop acting like you're this big pound for pound star. Unbelievable, Mr. Promoter, Mr. Big Time Promoter. Jamie B asks, and he asks, Mayweather for a non McGregor, Fury for a non Ngannou, and Joshua's fighting a non Ngannou. And then he's put embarrassing. You know what, Jamie B? You get it, don't you, kid? You get it. You're on the same wavelength as me. Touchdown, kid. About time. About time. That's what I'm going to say to that. The penny has finally dropped with these people. So, yeah, that's correct. But they tell us boxing's booming, don't they? Hey, boxing's booming. And the big stars are fighting people who have never boxed to get pay-per-view money in. And the commissions and all these sanctioning bodies and BoxRec as well, they're sanctioning it as boxing fights. It's like a cricketer having a game at snooker and it going in snooker record books against Judd Trump or Matt Stevens, isn't there? He's a nice kid. Or Ronnie O'Sullivan. Hey, it's Freddie Flintoff. He's going to have Ronnie O'Sullivan a game. It's in qualifiers or first round. You've got a wild card at Masters. Could you imagine that? Freddie Flintoff turning up at Masters because he'd done 6 months playing snooker. Hey, unbelievable, isn't it? Where's Begging Bucket? Hey, I'm glad we got Begging Bucket back, eh? I had to lend it to Sean O'Hagan and Josh Warrington, didn't I? To go around houses, you know, doing all interviews that they're doing, begging for slots. But it looks like they've got one, doesn't it? May 18th. So I'll be going to that. I've been offered tickets if it happens. So that's good, isn't it? So Nottingham will be a good night out. That's about it, really. 1:45. I think I'm going to go downstairs now. Slice of granary, 1 poached egg, and a banana. Potassium in that helps you good at the toilet, doesn't it? You're supposed to have them in the morning, though, aren't you? All right. Thanks for liking and subscribing and leaving a comment. Big shout out to my pal, Buster Brunt from Rotherham. All right, Buster, how you doing? Keep that training up, kid. We'll have to get you on here one day when you're allowed. All right, come and sit here. We'll ask you some boxing questions. Ask who your favourite boxer is and all that, and what you got planned for boxing, because I've heard you took boxing up, Buster. So I've got you back, mate. All right, Bust. And all right, all you hardcores. Thanks for liking. Go on, peace out. Big shout out to Frankenberry. Go on, pop, pop, bang.